Today I'd like to talk about the white man's burden, the modern day version of the white man's burden. Of course, nobody in the West uses the term white man's burden except with grave embarrassment over a racist past or an allegedly racist past. Nobody actually uses that term unironically, but ironically, the concept still holds sway, just in a different way these days. Let me explain. What really opened my eyes about this, and I think I've talked about this in a previous video, is an interview that I watched on, again, a channel that I recommend called Neutrality Studies. An interesting channel featuring left of center Europeans who are down on the neoliberal notion of trying to remake the world in the West's image, and basically who are anti-war and want to leave the rest of the world to do their thing while Europe does its thing, which runs directly counter to the primary power, the primary group that is in power right now in Europe, the Eurocrats, the EU, the NATO pushers, those still banging the war drums for the Ukraine proxy war and so forth. Anyhow, this woman said over the course of this interview that people in the West used to go to third world countries or whatever they were called back then, to the wilder parts of the world, the savage parts of the world, and they went with this missionary spirit, this missionary zeal to win the heathens over to Christianity. And that was really what animated a lot of the what would be called colonialism in the third world. What's called the third world, whatever it was called back then. And of course, I think that's true. I don't disparage it. I'm not against it. I do think, Christians have the Great Commission, and that exists for a reason. But the difference is that then they actually believed in a transcendent faith and preached that transcendent faith and thought it was important to these other people to bring this faith to them in order to bring them to God. Now, you can say that that's arrogant or culturally imperialist or whatever, but there is at least an internal coherence to it, i.e., if what you believe is true, if your faith is true, then it would then for you to keep that faith from the rest of the world would not be serving God, would not be helping to do God's will across the world, would not be helping souls across the world. It would be leaving souls in peril of damnation. But today, the white man's burden, the Great Commission, is still exists. The difference is that now, instead of going to Africa and saying, you tribal animists, you need to become Christians, we'll show you the essence of the creed, and maybe converting some, and also maybe getting chased out, or maybe getting murdered or ending up in a cannibal's pot or whatever. lots of people, lots of brave people gave their lives for those causes, whatever you think of the causes. But now they go to these countries and say, okay, we were wrong about that Christianity stuff. We don't believe that stuff anymore. But what we need you guys in Africa and other savage regions of the world, although we don't dare call them savage anymore, but we still think of them that way because they tend to be homophobic, and they tend to be sexist, and we come to them and we say, you all need to change in order to enjoy the benefits that we first world countries can give you. You need to become welcoming of things like innovations like gay marriage and the trans agenda and radical feminism. This is the new gospel, quote unquote. So, in other words, and this is the interesting thing about what she said, this is why it really stuck with me, this is why it resonates with me so much, that the impulse of the West to expand and to preach its chosen doctrines. These doctrines aren't embraced by most of the citizenry of the West, but they are certainly part of the belief system of the ruling class of the West. And it's the ruling class of the West who tends to go out and say, all right, you want our help, you poor savages with your Stone Age way of thinking, and your misogyny, and your patriarchy, and your homophobia. You all need to change, to become like we are now, because we're enlightened, and you need to become enlightened like us. So this is the new white man's burden. It's the same thing happening, just with a different doctrine. A false doctrine, a deeply pernicious doctrine. But it's important to note that it's still the same. The West is still operating on this notion or this idea of expansion and of the need to promulgate its doctrines, which it believes are true and which it believes are in contradistinction with those who still hold to in the 1800s, the European missionaries came over and gave the third world people Christianity, and now the third world people are Christian, or a lot of them are, a good many of them are, and you have the same people, the ancestors of those same missionaries coming 200 years later and saying, you need to stop with this Christianity stuff and get on board with our LGBTQ feminist trans gospel. So it's interesting to it brings things into a certain focus when you recognize these patterns.